The Queues app, or what I like to call advanced call center functionality of Microsoft Teams Phone, is coming out the summer of 2024, and that's what this video is about. I've been looking forward to the Queues app for a long time, and I think you have as well. And it complements the other call center videos that we've built on this channel really nicely. What we'll review in this video is the announcement, a video, some slides, and we'll even do a demo. Now let's look at the announcement. So this is the Queues app announcement, and Bindu Pillai from Microsoft on March 26, about a month ago, put out this article. And I encourage you to take some time to read it. There's a video which we'll actually watch in this session together. But there's some really good information about how the Queues app works and screenshots. So definitely take some time. But as we do our presentation together, I have some slides that I'm going to share with you. We'll be going over some of this in more detail. But this can definitely supplement everything that we're doing on this video together. I do want to mention that I've taken some time to read the comments in this post as well. So thank you everyone for your comments. We really do appreciate it. Now, I wanted to also mention that if you go to the Teams admin guide, you've seen on my videos in the past, I always tend to go to this site because it's got a lot of good technical documentation. On the left-hand side, if we expand out voice and go to Teams Phone and then go to auto attendance and call queues, there isn't a ton of information on the Queues app yet because it's in preview, but I did find that if you go to Authorized Users, there's some information. So let me walk you through this. So for those of you who are not familiar with Authorized Users, it gives an example here. Through Authorized Users, you enable users in your organization, for example, business owners, team leads, supervisors of call queues, to manage day-to-day operational changes. So for example, you can give someone access, someone that doesn't have to be a Teams admin, a supervisor, for example, access to be able to change the business hours for your auto attendant, holiday greetings, and after-hour call routing for auto attendants and call queues. Now here I started seeing some references to the Queues app, because here it says for features only available with Teams Premium, which is Queues app requires Teams Premium. Authorized users can also configure business after hours, holiday call routing, and view real-time and historical reports. And then it gives you this link to the manage voice application policies, which is also on the left-hand side here. Now real quick, I do want to show you when we did build our call center. You can take a look at it again. This is in that previous video. But under voice in the Teams admin center and auto attendance, we have that NX call center that we built together. Now in the auto attendant portion, there's a section here called Authorized Users. And this is where we made Alex an authorized user. So that's what this documentation is talking about. You can make certain people authorized users so they can change the opening time, the closing time for your auto attendant, your call center, and so on. Now, back to this documentation. On this tab here, Manage Voice Applications, you can actually see a good amount of information with respect to the Teams Premium license required for the Queues app, and it talks about it a little bit here. This is where you basically decide which authorized users have access to what. And if we scroll down here, in the table, there's a section for Teams Premium required. So, for example, if you're an authorized user who is going to be changing the business hours greeting or after hour greeting or holiday greeting, right? Welcome, you've reached us after hours. You don't need a Teams Premium license. But if you're changing the actual hours, right? Like it's instead of 8 to 5, you're changing it to 8 to 4. You do need, it says yes, you do need a Teams Premium license, which is in public preview at the moment. So this is a good place to consult from an authorized user perspective, aka Queues app that requires Teams Premium, which features require Teams Premium and which don't, right? So it looks like A bunch of them do under this auto attendant features section, but then it's broken up to other features too. Like this is auto attendant reporting. So if you want to look at real-time reporting, definitely you need to have the Teams Premium license. Historical reporting with Power BI, which we did a video on actually. It doesn't require it. But if you want to look at historical reporting using the Queues app, then yes, you do need Teams Premium. And then in terms of call queues and features, you can change the welcome greeting. You don't need a Teams Premium license. You can change music on hold. But if you scroll down, if you want to change the membership, meaning this setting allows authorized users to change the agents who are part of the call queue. This is a pretty key feature, right? If I was a supervisor and I noticed that a certain queue doesn't have enough agents in it and I wanted to borrow from one queue or make some people part of the queue that the wait times were too long, then you basically need to have Teams Premium license so your supervisor can do that. So definitely consult this section, and I found it interesting that there's already documentation that references it, even though the Queues app is in preview right now and it's not out till the summertime. I really like this video because it shows all the capabilities, but we'll do a demo as well.
As customer care continues to evolve, every customer-facing professional, from sales to service, requires tools designed to meet their changing needs. Introducing the Queues app for Microsoft Teams, a powerful addition to your team's experience that extends the customer engagement capabilities of your organization. With the Queues app, your team can collaboratively handle customer calls quickly and easily within the flow of work. Users can monitor and respond to calls in their queues directly in Teams, eliminating app switching for seamless call handling. Built-in call controls enable more collaborative care, leading to faster resolution and happier customers. And users can make outgoing calls on behalf of the queue they are working on. But it's not just about calls. The Queues app gives leads the flexibility to assemble and manage teams and prioritize call queues. Whether opting in or opting out users, or utilizing delegated admin capabilities, they can optimize the experience according to performance and business needs. With the ability to monitor and coach users within the app, leads can boost competence and confidence. Additionally, real-time and historical reporting provide metrics that give users and leads insights needed to ensure quality customer care. No matter who you are in the company, every interaction shapes the customer experience. Let's make it extraordinary. Connect with your Microsoft representative today to learn how you can be part of this revolution.
Now let's look at some slides. Queues app for Microsoft Teams. Manage customer calls in a familiar Teams native interface. And that's the point. You can stay in Teams, not just for your chat and your meetings and your phone calls, but also in this call center environment, you just basically switch to the Queues app and then you're able to be an agent or a supervisor. You can opt in and out of multiple call queues and receive call notification for the multiple queues that you might have opted into. You have built-in call control like hold, transfer, or escalating calls to your supervisor when you're stuck. And if you're placing outbound calls to your customer, you can do it on behalf of the call queue instead of your own private line. And because this is all part of Teams Phone, in the future you'll be able to integrate to Copilot for M365 to get in-call recap, and in the future integration to upstream and downstream tools. Think of examples like integration to CRM applications for customer data. Queues app makes it easy for supervisors to opt in and out their agents based on business needs, move agents around between queues, and also change the custom greetings of the automated attendant. And it also introduces real-time reporting for queues and automated attendant into the mix. It also makes historical reporting, which was previously only available using our Power BI templates, now available inside the Queues app. Available the summer of 2024, the Queues app does require a Teams Phone license as well as a Teams Premium license. Now let's jump into a demo. Now this demo isn't an actual production environment, it's more like a flash demo, but it's going to give you a good idea of the capabilities both from an agent and a supervisor perspective. And when we finally get this in GA, then I'll be able to build it out and we can do an actual capabilities. But for now, let's look at the capabilities as it stands. And by the way, because this is not out yet, it'll be out in the summer. It is subject to change like anything. So hopefully it stays pretty much the same. I think it's pretty much baked what we're going to see. And I'll call out anything that's coming later. But just kind of keep that in mind, right? So let's look at it from an agent perspective. Now, first thing you'll note is we mentioned that this is a native capability of Teams, right? So you see the Queues app as an icon on the left rail of Teams, along with calls and calendar and everything that you're used to seeing in Teams. So that's what makes it native. Now, in this scenario, we have this agent view of Rita Taylor, and this opt-in is flashing because she hasn't opted in or gone ready to be able to take calls for the queue that she's a part of. And along the top, you can see she's a part of this Contoso Bank Woodland and Contoso Woodland support. 2 queues, right? So if you're an agent part of multiple queues, no problem. You just switch between them. Now, we can see that from an activity perspective, there are actually 15 calls that are waiting in the queue. The average call answering time is 4 minutes and 12 seconds. The longest call waiting in queue is like, wow, a 17 and a half minutes, and 30% of calls are being abandoned. In terms of total calls, you're seeing that about 200 have been answered and 300 have not been answered. And then of the unanswered calls, you can see how many have been abandoned, overflowed, timed out, and the fact that there's like no agent logged in to be able to handle those calls. So all these different statistics are now available to you. And so let's go ahead and opt in and see what happens. So when we opt in right away, because there's so many calls waiting in queue, Rita gets a call. And this is where you get the pop-up via Teams phone, and we can just go ahead and click to answer the call. We click to answer the call, and now we're connected with the customer calling from the outside. And at this point, Rita decides this call is a little bit complex. I'm going to transfer it. I need some assistance from my supervisor. So she clicks on transfer. You can transfer and then consultant transfer or just transfer. So we're just going to click transfer, and her supervisor is Erin Buxton. So we're going to click on her name and click transfer, and the call gets transferred without any consulting right away to the supervisor. So maybe what she could have been doing is like chatting on Teams, and then supervisor knows, and then boom, you just transfer the call. Now, in a different scenario here, she's still opted in. You can see that there was a call that came in, but it was basically missed, and there's a not resolved flag on it. And when we click on that, you can see that there's an actual voicemail someone left that said, they said, hey, call me back at this number. And so Rita can go ahead and actually initiate an outbound call. But before we do that, just notice that the call log for the queue is all showing here. And in some of my past videos, I've shown where there's like a transcript, which is this little icon here. There's a call recording. So all that stuff like call recording, transcript, or even like Copilot for AI recap is going to be a function of this. Again, timing of it, I'm not quite sure from a queue perspective, but it's all Teams phone on the back end. So now Rita decides to call back this person. So she goes and clicks on call, and now has an option of calling back from the queue perspective, right? So instead of using her personal line, it's going to be the phone number of the Contoso Bank Woods A number that shows. So it's like a more professional outbound call. So she goes ahead and calls that person back, and eventually when she's done, she can go ahead and click on leave. So this is the agent perspective, and I think it's much improved compared to the agent perspective that exists today for auto attendants and queues and voice-enabled channels. What we've built in the past, without having the Queues app. Now, one other thing I just remembered is I've been told that you can actually mix and match the licenses of the Queues app and no Queues app. So you can have some agents that are the traditional agents and some agents that have the Queues app functionality, and those can all be part of the same queue or the auto attendant. So just kind of keep that in mind. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but I'm being told that can be an option from a supervisor and an agent perspective. The supervisor concept doesn't really exist without the Queues app, but the agent side does. Now, let's go ahead and look at how things look like from a supervisor perspective. So on the supervisor side, I'm just going to click on supervisor. And our supervisor is Chris Nadeau, and he's actually opted out. So he can also opt in, right, to receive calls as an agent, but he's just kind of monitoring how things are going. And so from his perspective, these are the details that he sees, right? He sees the waiting calls, the average call answering, all that stuff on the right-hand side. He also sees that the service level is at 80%, and he sees the total offer calls and the unanswered. So pretty much the same statistics that the agency he sees as well. And what he's noticing here is that there's a couple of people that have actually opted out, Caio and Miguel. But Caio is available, Miguel is offline. And then he can also see that 3 people have opted in, and he can see that Keiko is on a call for 34 minutes. Joshua is on a call, and so is Rita, right? Our previous agent. So you can see who's opted in, who's on calls, who's available but not opted in. So we're going to basically click on opt in for Keiko, and the supervisor can force this person to be ready, right, to opt in. So we click on that. And the next thing that Chris does as a supervisor, he notices that Rita, who's been on a call for 2 minutes, she's actually a newer agent. So he's going to click on these 3 dots and click on monitor to monitor the call that she's on. So he clicks on monitor, and he notices that she's having some problems with the customer calls. So he's going to click on whisper and basically whisper into her ear some coaching advice that only she can hear, and then she can just maybe have a better interaction with the customer. He can also barge in and take over the conversation completely if she's really having a difficult time, and or ultimately, if the whisper and the monitoring is going well enough, he can just end it. Now, I do want to note that from the announcement, it's clear that whisper, barge, and monitoring is something that's going to come after the general availability of the Queues app in the summer. So think later this calendar year. These are additional functionalities that won't be available right from the get-go. So I'm going to click on end monitoring now. And now on the top right-hand side, you can see that there's an analytics icon as well. So I'm going to click on that. And here, if you notice on this left-hand side, there is real-time and historical. So real-time reports, we've never had them from an auto attendant call queue perspective. And now with the Queues app, you can see in real time these statistics that are on the right-hand side are basically everything that's happening in the last 12 hours. And you can see it says updated 3 minutes ago. So this is the total call volume, internal, external calls, abandoned calls, average time in the auto attendant, average caller action count, and system initiated disconnect. So eventually when this all goes public, we'll have documentation that outlines what the definitions of all these are, right? Because it's important to understand exactly what these mean. There's even more stuff on the bottom here, but again, this is a flash demo, so I can't click down to it. You can also see in real time who is selecting what option. So it gives you a good perspective, like 30 people selected option 1, 40 option 2, and so on. The historical reports, we can click on that and switch to that view. So basically from March 1st to March 31st, we have this amount of data from an historical perspective, and we can also export it to probably an XLS file and so on. The other thing to note is that This is for all auto attendants, but you can select a specific auto attendant instead. Now, if we click on this Contoso Bank Woodland, we basically go back to our initial view. We just came out of this analytics view and we're back to our basic view where we're looking at all the people in the queue, in that queue there. Now, finally, on the bottom right, we can click on settings. And this is where, based on that policy that we discussed, if you have access as an authorized user, as a supervisor that's an authorized user, you can go ahead and make some changes here, right? So like you can click on who can answer incoming calls for this call queue, and then click on edit and add agents or remove agents. And that's a function of that authorized user that we looked at earlier on. So that's basically a flash demo of agent and supervisor as it stands today. I don't think it's going to change much, but just kind of keep that in mind. And I think it's really come a long way. And this is going to make a great positive impact on basically having call center functionality with Teams Phone and Teams Premium licensing natively inside Microsoft Teams. Thank you very much for watching. Give a thumbs up if you like this video, share your thoughts, and I'll definitely be doing a DIY video when this becomes generally available in the summer of 2024, and it'll build on top of all the work that we've already done.